Hello, and welcome to our very first Smashing Pumpkast live stream. I'm Frank Garcia Hell. Pat is at a wedding on the East Coast today, so he won't be able to join. He sends us apologies. He wishes he could be here, but he says Happy Pumpkin New Year. So this is the first time that we're doing this because of our wonderful Patreon members. We spend that money on our equipment, and we thought it'd be time to invest that Patreon money into a live stream account on StreamYard, attach it to our YouTube page. So that way in the future, we can do more live stream events, watch live shows together, have panels. So hopefully you enjoy this. I have two people joining me that I'll introduce here in a minute. How is everybody doing? Feel free to comment there. We can see these comments and we can reply to you. We're going to be going over the 2023 year in Pumpkin Land. We're going to be talking about all the things that the Pumpkins have done in 2023 and how we as fans feel about those things. So let's get started. You might be able to hear my washing machine. It's in the background just going crazy. I don't know what's going on. We loaded it wrong. That's the beauty of this live stream. We got 4 people watching. Hello, Liquid Sun. Hello, Evangelina. Hello, Mike P. Thank you for joining us. So, to join us to talk about Pumpkin Land in 2023, you may recognize her. Whoop, I just closed this out again. You might recognize her from original Asherella YouTube channel and on Instagram. Please welcome Asherella. Asherella, hello.
Hi, I am very excited to talk pumpkins with other pumpkins diehards. Like, this is my favorite thing to do in the world. So, very eager to be here.
Welcome. And you do a lot of pumpkins related content
I
on
do.
YouTube
Mhm.
and on Instagram. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I was going to say my channel isn't pumpkins content exclusive, but it's like 85% pumpkins content. And like
Yeah.
the Smashing Pumpkins, they have been my favorite band since I was 11. Like I saw the video for Rocket and like that was it. My life was changed, you know?
Yeah.
And they have been my like number one unconditional, unwavering favorite band my entire life, basically. And I just like talking about the Pumpkins. So, you know, I started my YouTube channel and I say it's all the things that consume my heart and my mind, good, bad, and in the middle. And the Pumpkins are a huge part of what consume my heart and my mind. So I watch like live performances and do kind of reaction videos. I talk about just different songs, like reactions to different songs, my interpretation, just like whatever, you know, whatever I'm thinking about Pumpkins related that day. My content's a little all over the place, but it's fun. And all my Pumpkins fan friends like it. So
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
thank you for joining us today to talk pumpkins. We also have another guest joining us to talk pumpkins, Dean Schaefer, former guest of the Pumpkast. Dean, welcome to the show. Nice shirt, too. Thank you for
Yes.
representing.
Yes, the Pumpkast shirt. These shirts are awesome, by the way, if anyone doesn't have them. One
Thank you.
really amazing Easter egg about it. I don't know where it is exactly. Oh, yeah, right here. The rocket is the SS Ignafo, which is amazing. Thank you. Great t-shirt. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Dean, you were a former guest on one of our shows. Remind me which one that was. That was
favorite guitar solos.
Right, favorite guitar solos. That was actually a popular episode for us because people really love the nerdiness of us talking about something so specific in the Pumpkins music. And that's exactly what I dreamed of for doing this podcast, is that we could talk to fellow pumpkin heads and get nerdy about the technical stuff. And hopefully in the future, if this works out, we can do more stuff like this and get even nerdier, break down some videos, break down some live shows and whatnot. So let's go ahead and dive into this year, 2023 in Pumpkin Land. Let's just get this out of the way because I feel like we have a lot of thoughts on this first. I'm not going to go in chronological order, but Jeff Schroeder deciding to leave the Pumpkins. So Asherella, we'll start with you. What are your feelings on Jeff's departure?
Oh, okay. So I was in denial, like when everybody was speculating before it was confirmed. I even have a couple videos. I was like, we have no like proof. Nobody's confirmed this.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna believe it until I see it, right? Because like I love Jeff and I think he represented something in the band that we really needed when he came around to represent that. You know what I mean? I mean, he stuck by Billy through a lot. You know, he was other than Billy, the longest consistent without hiatus Pumpkin, you know, and, you know, Zeitgeist era when he joined up, you know, a lot of people initially were like, oh, he's like Billy's new Asian guitar player. And I hated that. I hated that from the get go. And I was like, Jeff is so talented. Like, he's such a cool person. He's such a cool energy. He really, you know, contributed. It wasn't just, you know, rhythm guitar in the background. Anybody can do it. He really contributed. And he stuck by Billy, and he, I think he kind of like represented a little bit of like consistency and security for Billy and with the band that we needed Zeitgeist and beyond, because, you know, we had a few lulls there up until now. And I was just like, I was so disappointed when I heard that. I didn't want it to happen. Like, I mean, like, Jeff is, you know, a full-fledged Pumpkin in my heart, you know, like, to me, he is a full-fledged Pumpkin at this point. And so I was very disappointed to see him go. I mean, not quite as disappointed if Jimmy or James were to leave again, but still, it was heartbreaking. But, you know, I wish him the best. He's a really smart, really intelligent guy. And obviously an amazing guitar player. And I just appreciated what he did for us while he was there. And I always say us like I'm part of the band. I don't know. I fell into that habit years ago, and I'm like, us, the band, we, you know, like, whatever. Yeah, I identify so much
with
our
family.
Them.
We feel it.
Yeah. And people that get it. You know, you guys get it. But you know, I mean, I feel like because Jeff left on good circumstances, or at least so it seems, you know, maybe we'll see him again here and there sometimes. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that. And you know, we've got James, and as long as we have James, we'll be okay. But I'll miss Jeff for sure. And I got some amazing, like, the World is Vampire tour. Like, I was on the like Jack and Jeff side of the stage from Billy, you know, and I was pretty much like right in between like Jeff and Billy, but I got so much like awesome eye contact with Jeff during this show. It was so great, and some really good pictures too. He's just so cool. I'm gonna miss him. I was heartbroken, still a little bit heartbroken, but, you know, wish him well for sure.
Yeah. And feel free to make your thoughts known in the comments about how you feel about these topics as well, and we'll read them after we get through our thoughts. Dean, what are your thoughts on Jeff leaving?
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things about the Pumpkast has been to get to know Jeff and some of the other, you know, band members who we don't maybe see as much or get to hear from as much as Billy, right? Who's like, you know, obviously out there doing interviews and stuff more often. And Jeff, just, from the episodes you did with him, just seems like such a genuine, nice, down to earth, really good person, as well as obviously an incredible musician. And I feel like I think you did 2 episodes with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I got to know him a little bit. And so it's kind of sad in that way that we get to know this guy who's just seems so genuine and just like coming from a really good place. And I'm a little behind on the Autumn podcast, and I just listened to his episode, the Empires episode. And yeah, he just is he comes from such a good place in his heart, it seems like. And so I know that whatever decision he made, I don't know how it went down, but I assume for him it came from the right place. And so I really respect, you know, as a musician, sometimes you have to do your own thing. And I imagine that the Pumpkins are a pretty time consuming commitment. Like they're constantly touring, constantly recording. Like, it's amazing, obviously, how much music they put out, which we're also, you know, lucky to be able to get. And so, you know, if you're like a serious musician like Jeff and you have ambitions to do your own thing and be creative, it's probably hard to find the time to do that when you're part of the Pumpkins. So I'm sure it came from a really good place, and I'll miss him. And I think it's a good point that Asherella made, that I'm sure we'll see him again in some way, because it seems like everything's cool, and hopefully we'll be able to see him do his own thing and develop in that way.
Yeah, I mean, somebody in the comments here, let's see here what we got. These comments about like Lights and the Window says Jeff leaving was a gut punch for sure. And I agree about that. It really was surprising, because especially after that 33 podcast where he praises Jeff, you know, for keeping the band afloat, you know, being the voice of reason throughout all these years. He was a ride or die. And of course, you know, we became attached because of our interviews and stuff. And even outside of that, he was so kind with his time. And, you know, I'd see him at shows sometimes because I live in Los Angeles, and just one of the nicest guys who will take the time for you, a fan, you know, because I'm sure there were times where I felt like a little bit like the Chris Farley show, you know, just being like, remember in Zeitgeist when you know, the AOL sessions. So he was very kind and patient with us. And so it was really yeah, I was upset because when those rumors were happening, I was trying to squash them a bit, but I knew something was up because when I reached out to my contacts, they didn't say anything. You know, they weren't like, no, it's
Yeah.
bullshit. It was very like no response, or they would be like, oh, let me check it out, and then not hear from them. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right. But then like some people were being a little impatient about it. You know, this happened over a weekend. It kind of spread like wildfire, and then people are like, they have to answer this now, and it's like, give them time. You know, that's their choice of how they want to roll this out and how they want to present this information. But we eventually got there. Jeff gave his reason, and I know a lot of people thought it was kind of vague and open, but I feel like as a creative myself, I know what it's like to be part of a project that you're like, I'm ready to move on, as good as it is. And also, Pumpkins are at like they're probably emotional peak right now with just being like, as far as like things are doing well, things are riding high. And with all the world touring they're going to be doing in 2024, and the fact that it is a high note right now, I think Jeff made a good decision for himself to be like, now's the time to step away. James is back in the band. The band seems to be working on a certain schedule. The machine is roaring ahead. It's successful. So it seemed like a good time where he can be like, I think the band is in a healthy place where maybe his role isn't as integral as it used to be, where it really needed his you know, his space. Of course, they're going to miss him for sure, and his presence will be missed in certain ways, but I'm eager to see what he does. I'm a big fan of Lassie Foundation. I'm a big fan of the production work that he's been doing in the past couple of years. So Jeff, I doubt you're watching this, but we love you. Thank you for everything you've done for the Pumpkins, and for giving your time to the Pumpcast. We really appreciate it. Let's look at the comments here. Liquid Sun says having Jeff cropped out of pictures before it was announced was pretty awkward. That's what started it, right? Because the ticket sales, where all of a sudden we saw Jeff just cut out of those pictures and it's just the original three there. And that's where it started kind of getting like, ooh, boy. That's where it kicked it off. Lights and the Window says, I've watched him and listened to him on many a podcast and YouTube videos. I'd search Jeff. He was always great. He will be missed in the band, but the creative heart needs what it needs. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I can add to that, anybody that read the Guitar World interview that he did,
Yes.
he talked about how, you know, he had always had his own band. It like this was really the first time he had been a part of someone else's band.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you go into something so established like the Smashing Pumpkins, despite of where we were when he joined, you know, I thought that was kind of interesting. And like, who knows, we might get Jeff's own band here in the near future, you know, sometime in the future that might be, you know, an amazing addition to the musical world. I hope so, you know, like
Yeah.
if he's not going to be with us, then I hope he creates his own band and music that is great.
You want to know something fun?
Yeah.
So I had made, not joking, really, just taking a picture of the Oceania era and removing Billy, and being like, just saying, for them to start their own band.
Oh, I was going to say with like Nicole and Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Nicole responded, you know,
Maybe. You know,
I would love that.
I was going to
That
say,
was
I'm
awesome.
actually a big Ginger fan. So I would love
Me
for
too.
like Ginger and Jeff to do something. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ginger is great. We tried to get her on the show, but schedules never worked out. But she's awesome.
She's so cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Hi, Matt Lockwood. We'll talk about these things that you're concerned about towards the end of the show, about what we hope for in 2024. So let's move on to our next topic, unless anybody else has anything else they want to add.
I want to just echo one thing you said, Frank, which is just, if Jeff ever sees this, thank you, Jeff, for everything you've contributed. You're so amazing, and we're really grateful for everything you've brought to our lives. So thank you.
Yes.
Wouldn't hate a Lassie Foundation opening act for Pumpkins tour.
Yes.
Great. So speaking of tours, let's talk about the biggest tour of this year for the Pumpkins. The World is a Vampire tour with opening acts Rival Sons, STP at some shows, Stone Temple Pilots, of course you all know STP, and then Interpol as well on some shows. Am I missing, were there any other like special? I know last year they had Our Lady Peace for one show when Jane's Addiction couldn't make it, but those were all the opening bands, correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, World is a Vampire tour. Dean, let us know your thoughts on the World is a Vampire tour.
Yeah, so I live in San Francisco and saw them play in Mountain View, which is in the on the peninsula or South Bay here at Shoreline. And yeah, I got there in the middle of the Stone Temple Pilots set. They were actually really good. And I know this will sound lame because I know some people sometimes will say this about the Pumpkins, but I like didn't realize how many of their songs I know and really like. I know it's like such a lame thing to say, like, oh, they do that song too. Cool. I love that one. But yeah, they were really good. I thought I like enjoyed their set a lot. But yeah, obviously the Pumpkins were amazing, as has been said many times. They're like, really at the top of their live game right now. And there were so many songs in there. I saw some of the Instagram like teasers of some of the sets from the previous shows on the tour. So I kind of knew like Jelly Belly was coming and Everlasting Gaze. And just to be able to see songs like that was like a real treat. As well as like the Celestials, which, I think thanks to the podcast, I love Oceania. I never thought, I'd get another chance to see some of those songs. So
Yeah.
the set list was amazing. Oh, this time, I mean, come on. I mean, the set list was
Oh my
just
God, right?
incredible. So super happy to see them. My only criticism, because I have to have one, is I feel like every Pumpkins album, they're at their best when there's like a long drawn out like jam where everybody can really stretch their legs and like really go for it. And this set list was amazing, but it didn't really have like a long jam in it. Like the other sets from, the previous tour had something,
Yeah.
So it didn't have that. Yeah. Right. Or Silverfuck or Starla or something like that. And this set list felt like very compact in the way that like, this song. So I was kind of missing that element of their shows of like the more jammy aspect. But I can't be too picky because the set list was incredible. They sounded amazing. Every song was just great. So I was obviously super happy.
Nice. Asherella, what are your thoughts on the World is a Vampire tour? You actually contributed to our episode, but please feel free to reiterate what you said there.
Well, I went to the Charlotte show, Charlotte, North Carolina, and STP was not on the show. It was just Interpol and Rival Sons. And, I enjoyed both of them. I had pit tickets and I got there super early so I could be right up on the stage. And so I saw both of those bands, very up close. And I thought they were good. Rival Sons, I kind of appreciate, they're kind of like, like the 70s via the 90s via now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they have this weird
Black Crows-ish.
Like Black Crow. Yeah, totally. And so they were pretty good. Of course, nobody's the Pumpkins and the Pumpkin show. Oh my gosh. It was so amazing. Like, and I said this in when I contributed to the recap episode. It might be my favorite Pumpkin show ever, honestly.
Wow.
It was just so good because the energy was so good. Like Billy, James, Jeff, Jimmy, Jack, they all seem to be having such a good time performing. And I've been to Pumpkin shows where it's not necessarily been like that. It's almost like more mature playing, And everybody was having a great time. The crowd energy was so into it. It was so much fun. It was so hot and humid, but nobody cared because everybody was just so into the music. Like it was amazing. Quite possibly the best Pumpkin show I've ever seen. And kind of what Dean was saying about like not having any of the long like jammy stuff like we've seen in prior shows. It's like I think we're getting to the point where we have so much music and we have so many hits. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, how do you even create a set list? It's like everybody wants to hear everything all the time. So you got to get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. You want to get some new stuff in there. I personally thought Spellbinding live was amazing.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Cool. I loved it. And it was a really good time. This is one of Billy's picks from the show. Took this
Ah,
little like guitar pick holder pendant to put it in and wear. And on the back of it, I had it engraved. It says WPC. It has the date of the show, like 8/22/2023, SP forever. And Object of Hate that's in the chat, he was at the show with me. That's one of my good friends.
oh,
And
nice.
he even actually came from overseas to come. Well, he was coming anyway, but yeah, so he made the special trip down to go to the show with me, and it was such a good time. I loved it. It was a great time, and I got to fan Billy with my big World is a Vampire fan. If you listen to the Pumpkast recap episode, you can hear my story about that on there. It was so fun. It was so great. Like, it's so validating. Billy Corgan being like, yes, fan me with your big fan. I like all day, every day, whatever you
Yeah.
say.
I mean, you bring up a good point. One of the things I love seeing, going to see the Pumpkins live these days is the joy, is the feeling like, you know, like you said, I've seen a couple of shows where it felt like, all right, they're kind of going through the motions. And,
Yeah.
you know, like even when I go back to, I mean, my first show was seeing them in 96 during the Melancholy tour. And this was after Jimmy was out of the band.
Me too.
And it was already a dark period, and I was psyched because it was, you know, it's my favorite band. I'm seeing them for the first time ever, and it's a arena show, and of course I'm gonna love it. But going back and revisiting that show, I'm like, oh, it's not as good, you know. And so what I love, and of course doing this show, we're looking at different live eras and stuff, and especially in that kind of post zeitgeist through I mean, even up to the Shiny album, there were some kind of dicey shows where you could tell not really into it. But now, just watching him and James get along, I don't know if it's fake or not, but it feels genuine to me. It
I think so
feels like,
too.
yeah, and him having his kids out there too. It just feels like he's happy, you know? I don't
I
know. It
think
just
so
feels
too.
right.
Okay, Billy Corgan is on top of the world right now. You know, he's got his kids, he's got his wife, he's got his band, his business, his brother, you know, his best, like James back, you know. He talks about like, I mean, back whenever he was, you know, I mean, everybody, my hardcore pumpkin people, you guys know when he put the ad out in the Chicago paper, that was like, I want my band back. And he had
Yeah.
made comments how, like, you know, James was like his brother. And like, I feel like the James and Billy, you know, relationship right now is genuine. Tonight, their acoustic tonight on stage, so good.
Yeah, the
Like, you know,
banter.
yeah. And that was like, you know, tonight's such a complex song instrumentally, but they did just such a good job, like with the acoustic version. You know, it's one of those hit you in the heart, and just them two together playing it, like, you know,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. And I don't know if, I mean, y'all probably had this if you have friends who know you're Pumpkins fans, is the Disney, you know, when they did the promo for the Disney performance and people are like, did you see this? What is this? You know, World is a Vampire guy, Rat in a Cage guy is doing this. And you're like, if you followed Billy at all, you know, like we have, this is nothing new. Like, it's not shocking. It's just like, actually, it's great. You know, you're happy to see him promoting a Disney performance because you're like, dude is happy. The shows sound great. You know, cool. I mean, if you want to make fun of it, he's like, you know, people always love making fun of him with memes and stuff. But I love that it's kind of rolling off his back like a duck now. Like that could
Yeah.
have bothered him, and I'm glad that he was just like, whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't affect me, which
Yeah.
is
Well,
the right response.
yeah, he's Billy Corgan. Like, what does he have to
Prove.
Yeah, he's proven himself at this point. He can do whatever he wants. It doesn't matter. And there's a huge Pumpkins revival right now. And
Yeah.
a lot of the things they're doing, like the Disney stuff, is sort of helping that, you know? And I
The
think
new
people
generation.
got to know that 20-year-old, you know, Siamese Dream Billy, he's a 50-some-year-old man. You know what I mean? People grow up, you know, and so does Billy Corgan. And, you know, he's got a family, and like, it's amazing that he's, you know, got his kids at Disney World and doing Disney performances. I love it. I think I've always said that the Pumpkins are, you know, if you listen, everybody's like, oh, everything's so different. Like, you know, no Smashing Pumpkins album sounds like the one before it, but you get like clues of what the next sound album is going to be like in it. And it's like, they're a journey, they're an evolution, and this is the revolution of that evolution of the Pumpkins. I say that all the time. And some people are like, I hear this and I hear old Pumpkins and it's just not the same band. And it's like, if you've paid attention the whole time, it so is. We're exactly where we're supposed to be, you know?
It's all in the DNA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's read some comments here. Liquid Sun says, saw this tour on the rail in the pit right in front of James, and Purple Blood was a great inclusion to the set. And yeah, I agree. I loved hearing Purple Blood. That's one of my favorites from Sear. You'll be hearing our Sear episode coming out at the end of the month. And let's see, Lights and Windows says, when I saw them in Vegas, it was only them. Big surprise. Jelly Belly blew everyone away. Missed you there, Frank. Glad you made it on a later date. I had the worst luck with the shows this year because when we'll get to this in a minute, because Dean, you went to the Napa Valley show,
Right.
The one that was separate from the Bottle Rock, that was at a small venue, and that's on my bucket list. I want to see Pumpkins in a small venue, and I had tickets, but couldn't swing it, couldn't afford it. I had to end up selling them and it didn't work out. I got sick too. And then that happened for the Vegas show. The first, I was supposed to go there with my wife, and then I got COVID and I couldn't go. So that was a real bummer, but Pat and I got to see them here in near LA. So it worked out. But so speaking of that, the Napa Valley show, Dean, tell us a little bit about that show, that smaller show.
Yeah, so they played at this venue called Jam Cellars downtown Napa, which is not too far from San Francisco, and it's a 700-person capacity venue. And I think I saw the Pumpkins when they did their Fillmore residency when Zeitgeist came out, right? And so that was like 1,300 people. So that was pretty small, and this is even smaller. I kind of found it by accident. I saw like an alert about the show, and the opening band, Great Northern. There's a venue in San Francisco that's like a dance club called Great Northern, and I was like, "Whoa, the Smashing Pumpkins are playing at Great Northern in San Francisco? That's insane!" And then I realized, oh, it's in Napa. But I was already like so hyped. I was like, "Oh, I should just go. Like, let's just go. We can do the drive. Let's just go." And then I realized that Bottle Rock Friday was where they were playing the next day, wasn't sold out yet. So I was like, let's just do this. Let's just do this both. I convinced my wife, let's just go both. It'll be fun. So yeah, the show was super small, 700 people, really cool venue. I'd never been to it before, like right in the heart of downtown Napa. And it was pretty similar to the show they played the next day at Bottle Rock in terms of set list, but with a few extra gems sprinkled in. So I think the big one was they played Beautiful for the first time since 1996. And Billy dedicated it to the crowd, and I felt like it was kind of like a love letter to the people who were there to see it. And I think this is gonna sound cheesy or stupid, but for me, the thing that was so cool about it was I've been following this band, obviously, like many of us, for a long time. I've been a big fan for a long time, and as we've talked about, they've changed a lot over the years. And there have been stops and starts, whether to the band or to our personal interests in the band. Sometimes you fall out and come back in. And it can be hard sometimes, I think, to remember that it's the same person, that Billy's been there all along. And, he's older, he looks different, he sounds a little different, and it's a long time. And something about seeing him at the show in Napa, this tiny show, and being close enough physically to him, I was just like, oh my God, you're the same guy. It's still you. And you are the person who is responsible for all this amazing stuff that I love, all the way back to the very beginning. You are still you. And I know it's just sounds silly. Of course it's still him. But being close enough to really see his face in person, really, it just connected with me all of a sudden. I was I've always felt grateful to him, of course, and to the band, of course. But being that close and really getting it, oh my God, you have brought so many amazing things into my life and into the world, and it's still you. And it just felt so much appreciation for him at that show. It was really an amazing show.
Evangelina brings up a good point here. She says it's not silly. We all feel like that because it's true. I mean, it really is surreal seeing him up close. I mean, it's happened to me a couple of times, especially when we'll get into this later, but when I went to Chicago to see the Siamese Dream, anniversary show at Zuzu's, it's very surreal. It's incredibly surreal, and it's hard not to have that, the history there and what that person means to you
Yeah.
when you see them up close. And in my industry, I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of my heroes, some good, some very bad, Chevy
Yeah.
Chase. But that, that happens, and it's so cool to be that Billy's kind of that accessible. I know he's always kind of been that accessible, and there is a separation now, but it is like you could just see him walking around Zuzu's. It's just really cool that he's kind of taken on this thing of like where he's guarded enough, but yet he's open enough to his fans where it's like, I'm accessible for you. Whether or not it depends on what you're going to be probably throwing his way, of course. Especially with this year being a little bit iffy with the Siamese Dream anniversary, which we'll get into here soon. So the 33 podcast was continuing up into the autumn release. And any thoughts on the 33 podcast as far as like how the rollout of the songs went every single week? Billy covering that and a classic track up into the autumn release. Asherella, what are your thoughts on that? The podcast up to autumn and the release of autumn.
I was gonna say I loved it. I liked, how we got, the story, Billy's take on the story, where it came from, with the songs being released. And I thought it was cool. Some of the guests that were on there, you would have never thought, like Willow Smith, like cool,
Yeah.
like random but cool. Kind of exposed me and probably others to people that might not have paid so much attention to before. But I think that throwing like the classic tracks in and talking about those really was smart in like a marketing type way, but also was a nice wrap up. You know what I mean? We get new stuff, we get a bit of old stuff. But I thought it was really cool to hear like the story go along with the song, why it was the way it was, and I liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Dean.
Yeah, so I'm behind. I have to say, like I started listening at the beginning when the podcast came out, and I had a hard time connecting with this idea of like listening to an album, which is definitely meant to be an album, right? It's like the opera, space opera, and like listening to it one song at a time, 1 week at a time. I had a really hard time connecting with that. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's really cool, but I sort of just after a couple of weeks, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait until it comes out and I can really listen to all of it, and then I'll go back and listen to the podcast on my own pace. And because I just was like having a hard time being like, where were we last week with the music? Like, how is it like sit together? So now I've like gone back and started listening to it, and I'm like a third of the way. I just finished like the 15th episode or the 13th episode. So I'm liking it. I agree the guests are awesome. Like the Willow Smith episode was really interesting. Forgetting his name all of a sudden, but the producer of Siamese, the engineer for Siamese Dream was great. The episode with him. So Butch Vig. There you go. The Butch Vig episode was amazing. It's been great. I wish that there was a little bit more discussion of the songs themselves and kind of the writing process, because when they introduce the show each time, they're like, we're going to talk about the melody and the chords and what it means and how it was written, and then Billy just basically says, well, this is where we are in the story, and now let's listen to it. And I like having the narrative and understanding how it fits together, but I really would like to know more about like, how is this song written? Like, how did you arrange it? Like, and maybe that's, I'm a music geek, so maybe that's not what everybody wants. I'm happy for whatever I can get. I'm stoked about it, but I feel like they're telling you, we're going to tell you about the melody and the writing process, and it doesn't really end up being that. So,
I mean, I agree. Yeah, I really enjoyed the podcast. I thought it was really cool because the story is so dense that at first I was kind of on the same page of just being like, I don't know if I like the week after week. And then, of course, the sound is compressed via podcast. So you're not getting the full dynamics of the songs that they're releasing. But knowing the full scope of it and having that time to digest it week by week and anticipating. It was fun to anticipate hearing a new song every single week, kind of like they did with the Sear rollout, where like occasionally you get a couple of songs, and it was exciting, especially during the pandemic. But to have that leading up to the podcast, or to the release of Autumn, I really enjoyed it, especially when they were doing the breakdown of the old tracks, because my favorite guest was probably Jeff. People who were closer to the band, Kareen Luxon, who's the SP admin. I think like hearing people who are close to the band talk about the process and what it's like to be in that orbit was always really cool. Sierra, Katie, all these people who were there that contribute. It's cool to hear their experience with Billy, and also kind of being like, what should I say? Because I think there's probably things that they're like, maybe I shouldn't reveal this or that. I know when I interviewed Howard, there was a little bit of like, let me take a moment here to think about how I want to answer this, because it is a very, like I said, there's a image to uphold. There should be some secrets there. But yeah, the 33 rollout, the podcast rollout, I really liked. I don't love iHeartRadio. Those podcasts drive me crazy because of how many ads there are. But if that helps fund whatever Billy's trying to do, great. That adds more money into the pocket, so that way we can get albums, more albums and more self-produced stuff. And I meant to bring up, I don't have it with me, but I meant to bring the box set, the Autumn box set that came in the shiny packaging. Did anybody else buy that special box set?
I didn't.
Yeah,
That's
I credit
pricey.
card debt.
I was gonna say a little too pricey for me. I'll get it eventually.
Yeah. So I mean, like, well, we'll get into it later, but Autumn is released. We had the full thing there. What were your thoughts on Autumn, and how has it gone since it's released? How often do you listen to it? Has it grown on you? Is it one of those that you're kind of putting to the side until the next album? How did you feel about it?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry.
You go first, Dean.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like really revisiting it now and trying to give it the time. And I do think the podcast is helping me appreciate it more now that I know the story. One point that Pitchfork made that I don't know, I agree with Pitchfork, they're really harsh, but that really made sense for me was like the whole narrative is like subtextual. Like the narrative is almost absent from the songs. Like it's really, you have to know the narrative in order for the songs to like fit into it. So now that I can hear Billy explain it, like the songs start to make more sense. And I think to your point, you mentioned Frank, like it is really like watching a movie. And so once you have the scenes in your mind, it helps to be able to like appreciate the music. That's I think one of you mentioned Spellbinding earlier, and that is like one of my top Pumpkin songs now. I just absolutely love Spellbinding. It is so good. Yeah, and live it was incredible. It's just like a jump up and down kind of song. It's really, really amazing. And so I'm really loving that. And yeah, I'm enjoying the album now that I kind of like know where it's at, and hearing that like, oh, this song is intended to be not Shiny's best song, right? Like, oh, okay, so there's more to it than what you're hearing. That said, I know we'll probably talk about this separately. I finally got my hands on the Zodion songs, and those are also really, really great. But anyways, yeah, it's amazing how much music we have. And, as I think you've said before, Frank, it's like, and even Billy said on the podcast, like, you're not necessarily going to love every song, and that's really fine. Like, there's something for everybody, and you'll like what you like. And if it's 5 songs, 10 songs, 20 songs, like, that's great. You don't have to love every single one.
Yeah. Asherella?
I think like a lot of people, like once you digest it, you like it more. And I listened to 33, as everything was coming out, but I've actually like binged it again, and listened to like chunks of episodes at a time, and like re-listening to it, and re-listening to the music that way. Also, there were songs that I loved like initially, and then there were songs that were like, I don't know. However, that being said, I think, and I was like, I don't know, I don't want to insult the voice of my heart, WPC, so much, but I think it is, I mean, it's obviously synthy, electronic-y mostly. I think it is like synth music, but obviously written by a guitar composer. Because think about how good Spellbinding was live on like more analog instruments, like traditional instruments. Like there are certain songs like Butterfly Suite, if it was like performed by like, you know, a string quartet and some guitars and bass and more traditional instruments, it would be like another Tonight, you know. I think it is good. I think that Billy is ultimately like, you know, a guitar composer and going outside of his box and composing music in this way. Like, I mean, he's, you know, a music prodigy. Like, I mean, he is amazing at composing whatever. But honestly, all of these songs, I think would it like if they were all performed, if we could hear them all performed, guitars and more traditional, not synth instruments, people would be in love with it, like drooling for it.
Yeah, I'd like to see that with the Sears songs, because the Sears songs that we've heard
Yeah.
live are really cool to hear interpreted that way. And even acoustic, where you can hear the bones of it, is just so impressive and so cool. And I hope we get a couple of more Sears songs that come in and out of the set list as the years go on, just to hear their interpretation of them. But yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I have to take Autumn as a whole, and I came into it as exactly as it's advertised, which is a rock opera. For those of us who are nerdy with music, you know, we know what that means. We know what that sounds like, what that feels like, and not everything's a hit, but everything works to make the bigger picture. And it does work in movie structure. You know, we have the first, second, and third acts, and then how it pays off, and then even leaves it open for more. And I really appreciate it as it went on. You know, when I first listened, I think the first act was my least favorite. Second going into third is my favorite of the whole. But the more that I listen to it, kind of just like Sear, the more I listen to it, the more it grows on me and the more I appreciate it. And it's one of those things where I can't really listen to just certain songs. It kind of does have to be the experience of the album as a whole, as a rock opera. And I know it's not for everybody. This is something we mentioned in the Sear episode. It's okay if you don't like it. It's okay if you don't dig Sear. It's okay if you don't dig Autumn, because it's just not your style. We had a listener that I really respect who was just like, I'm sorry, I just can't get into it because I'm just not a fan of synth music or 80s, you know, flavor in general. And I was like, that's cool. Because he knows that he's like, I'm gonna wait for the next one, because not every album is going to be your favorite. And I think that's perfectly fine. For me, it's all candy, you know, it's all treats. I'll take the Pumpkins doing Tin Pan Alley. I don't care. I'll
Yeah.
buy it. I'll listen to
Yeah.
it. I like Hooray got a lot of backlash, but to me, I love Hooray
I love
because
Hooray.
again, it's yeah, it's just for him to stretch his legs and do something cool. It just, and I think people, I mean, the next album he says it's going to be, you know, guitar rock, right? You know, he's approaching it like he did Siamese Dream. We'll see how that actually sounds when it comes out. But I think that he needs to, I think fans need to be a little bit more open with him doing these types of things, so that way we can kind of return back to maybe the things that some fans enjoy a little bit more. I think he needs to miss it a little bit to come back to that guitar sound. You know what I mean? You got to, when you're an artist, you got to scratch the itch. You got to do what's good for you. Matt Lockwood says Autumn is the only SP album I don't have on vinyl. The prices are way too damn high. The CD release works for me, but as a collector, I need that vinyl. I believe you could get the standard vinyl, but the standard vinyl even is pretty pricey as well, almost $100. Absent-minded Aerospace says Autumn completely grew on me too. 33 podcasts helped a lot. So if you're having trouble connecting to those songs, maybe if you give a listen to the 33 podcasts again, that'll help you appreciate the songs. And Absent-minded Aerospace also says, still waiting for a modern era SP album I could give to a coworker and say, start here. Well, I mean, that's the beauty of the Pumpkins. You can say start here, just back of your favorite albums, and then if they like that, to me, I always like to tell people, because they're like, what's the album that represents the Pumpkins the most? And I really think it is Melancholy. One, because you hear the band playing live and a lot of that, it's truly the band recording in that space. And also it's so eclectic, you know, there's so much to pick from in there. And it's like, well, if you like all these avenues they go down, then keep going. You're going to be able to find some other stuff, and maybe not every album's going to be for you, but you'll get a sense of what the Pumpkins are about. You know, they're not just one thing, they're everything, you know.
I talk a lot about how, you know, to be such an iconic 90s alternative band, like the Smashing Pumpkins aren't of a genre. They're not. You know, melancholy, I mean, it ranges from like lullabies to metal, you know, and like
Yeah.
everything in between. And, you know, it's crazy because when you think 90s alternative music, Smashing Pumpkins are one of the core bands that come to mind. For a lot of people, even, you know, casual Pumpkins fans, not even Pumpkins fans. So I you know, they're just so diverse. I don't know. I that's one of the things I think I love about them, because they're able to like strike every emotion and hit every chord with me and have my entire life basically. Just a side note, sorry.
No, I mean, that's the thing, is like we've been accused of being what's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking on it. Where you're like overly complimentary to the band, you know.
Yeah.
Sycophantic.
Sycophantic, that's what we've been called. And I you know what, I agree with it, because like when Pat and I started this podcast, we wanted to focus on the positive, what we liked. There's enough negative stuff in the fan community that we were like, we're done with that. We're here to celebrate the band. We're here to lift it up. And that's not to say that we can't have criticism. You could definitely have criticism, but we like to focus on the stuff we like. And for me personally, the reason why I like so much of it is because of that, because I know what the band is capable of. I like when they take different avenues. I like it when they come back to these, you know, sounds that we love. And yeah, I mean, Autumn was cool. I was going into Zodion, which was an extra thing that came with Autumn that we'll eventually hopefully see. I hope this still happens, where we see a proper release of it, plus some other songs that were recorded during that era. If you listen to the Howard Willing episode, he talks about how it was just Billy and Jimmy just kind of doing it scrappy, putting it out, you know. That one was kind of more 60s psych pop oriented, and if you've heard it, it's a lot of that, and it's really really cool to hear it be so stripped down, you know, so scrappy. And of course, my favorite track from it I talked about is Magdalena. I've talked about it so much. Magdalena is such a great song. What are your thoughts on Zodion, and what do you hope to see from it in the future? Asherella, you start.
Magdalena, great. I think kind of agree, like the sort of, you know, I mean, you know how Gish sort of has like a lot of psychedelic-y, like I think we get a little bit of that, you know, kind of in some of these tracks, some of that root, you know, SP Origin stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. You know, I don't ever want a Gish 2.0, a Siamese Dream 2.0, a Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness 2.0. A lot of people want that. But you know, if that is where we're going, you know, in the journey, like I like seeing some of those older, you know, roots kind of showing up in the newer stuff now. It's like we're kind of coming back around to that. And I think that's cool about, you know, the Zodion stuff. I think we get some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dean?
Yeah, I think some have said, I think Frank, you may have mentioned this, and I've seen it online too, is like people comparing Zodion to some of the Tiergarten stuff, like
Yeah,
some
that
of the
would be
more,
me.
more classic rock aspects of Tiergarten. I think that's spot on, and I really like that Tiergarten stuff. And I have to say,
I love it.
Oh, yeah, a lot of it escaped me at the time, or maybe I listened to it and forgot about it until the Pumpkast came around to it. And I really, really liked a lot of the Tiergarten stuff now that I've had some time with it, and it's, you know, aged a little bit. Some of it is really awesome, and I think, yeah, the Zodion stuff really calls back to some of that in a really good way. Obviously, there's echoes of Gish as well, as you were saying. So I think it's like a really nice blending of a lot of different influences that they have. And I think one of the cool things about the Pumpkins, and this is because Billy is such a voracious like student of so many different like mediums and eras. Like he knows so much about so many eras, not just in music, but in all forms of art, you know, and that he's capable of channeling all these different things in different ways. And so when you hear Autumn, you're really getting like this 80s David Bowie stuff, right? But then when you hear Zodion, you're getting some totally different thing that he loves, right?
Yeah,
And
like
his
the
love is
zombies or the
yeah,
seeds and stuff like that. Yeah.
right. He loves all of that. And sometimes he chooses to really go in one direction, but he can choose to go in another direction. And it's like equally authentic for him and equally good because he knows it so well and he's able, like, he's creative and he's able to apply it in any direction that he chooses. So it's cool to just see these different lenses on his influences and his different aspects of his creativity. Magdalena was great. And I haven't sat with it enough to know remember all the songs by name, but there's just some really great tracks that are just they're as good as anything else, and they're just super different, and it's cool.
Yeah, Huzzah is another one of my favorites off of that. Just the sway of it is really cool. But yeah, I'm telling you, if they release Magdalena as a single, I think that would do pretty well. So absent-minded aerospace says, I love Billy's ability to put out an album that is not an album. Zodion's context makes it all that much more interesting. I know he loves wrestling, and it is sort of like when a character starts. Character starts as an audience member, referee, coach, or journalist, right? Like having a plant in the audience, and then you find out that they're part of it. Liquid Sun says, I want to see a proper release with all the tracks and album artwork in the style of Shiny One and Seer to tie in and close out that trilogy. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if I wouldn't put it past to do like some kind of super package of all the Shiny series, but man, that would be quite massive. And I love Zodion. I love that sound. I'm already a fan of like 60s psych pop. And so to hear that kind of throwback is really, really cool. And again, it's just kind of a scrappy, I like the scrappiness of it and the way that you kind of hear Jimmy's organic drumming again without any kind of the processing or the electronic elements to it. But I really enjoy it, and hopefully it does see a proper release with the extra tracks on there. It was hinted at to me that it would be sometime, I guess, in the near year or so before the next album comes out in a couple of years, but we'll see. We'll see if that actually happens, because you know how sometimes he'll change his mind on some of the things. Maybe it might just be for that autumn limited release. Cool. So let's move on to our next topic, which is Siamese Dream 30th anniversary. 30 years of Siamese Dream, one of our favorite Pumpkin albums of all time, one of the most highly regarded Pumpkin albums of all time. And there was a Tower Records pop-up to recreate the album release show that they did in 1993 at Tower Records in Chicago. So Siamese Dream 30th anniversary plus the Tower pop-up at Zuzu's. Dean, what are your thoughts on this anniversary?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I think the video of the original performance, the original release one, showed up on YouTube just like a couple months beforehand.
Yeah.
And someone sent it to me. I was like, "Have you seen this?" And I was like, "How have I never seen this?" Probably because it was never out there, or I missed it, or whatever. And so it was really cool to have the chance to re-experience the new thing kind of in real time and not so much after the fact. And I kind of was skeptical about it, to be honest. I was like, is this just like a nostalgia play? Like, am I going to like this? I didn't go. I watched it online, and I was really pleasantly surprised. I thought it was really moving and beautiful. I thought the band did such an amazing job bringing life to these songs that are old. I think that's got to be one of the hardest things about being a musician who's as successful as Billy is like, how do you play the same song hundreds of times and make it feel good every time? And they really, they do it every show, but I think in this show in particular, because it was special, it really felt like you were kind of witnessing, I don't know, the beginning all over again in like a really beautiful way. So I really liked it and thought it was like a really moving, genuine expression of appreciation. I have to make one point, which is that occurred to me while I was watching it. I loved how they did the Space Boy into Spaced thing.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, and now that I've heard some of the I went back and listened to some of the deluxe stuff and like the other versions. I really think that that was like one song at some point. Like Space Boy and Space was one thing, and then they broke it out and put one on Pisces. And I never occurred to me ever before hearing them play it like that at the acoustic show.
Yeah, I agree. Asherella.
Well, I didn't get to go to the show, so I didn't see it live, but of course I watched the stream and I loved it. I loved the idea. I loved like the concept of the Tower Records pop-up, like recreating this. Of course, Siamese Dream, it's an amazing album. It has been with me most of my life. You know, Rocket is the reason that I am a Smashing Pumpkins fan. That was my first exposure to the Pumpkins. And I thought the live show was so great. I loved you know, we had Billy, James, and Jimmy, but Jeff and Jack and Katie were there. Of course, Jeff is no longer going to be with us, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was nice that Billy made some like mention of Darcy in the show and kind of acknowledged her contribution to the album and that era. So I thought that was nice. Maybe that's a step in the right direction of mending. I don't think Billy and Darcy will ever like mend. I don't think they'll ever make up, or be friendly. I don't think we'll ever see Darcy back in the band. I know that's controversial to some people, but I just don't think it'll ever happen.
I think here's what I think. I think if they ever make it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if that ever happens, I think Billy will extend an invitation for one song, and the ball will be in her court, whether or not that happens or not. I have a feeling like I think that would be the only time he would reach out again. I believe.
I've got a whole like thought process on like Billy and James and why James has come back around and Darcy hasn't. That is for another day.
Right.
And but I thought the Siamese Dream 30th anniversary, it was so good. It really was so good. It was really emotional. I couldn't help but find myself getting a little misty-eyed. Pumpkins, they punched me in the heart, hit me in the soul, stabbed me in like the feels all the time. That's how I describe it. Because no other music grips me the way that the Pumpkins do. And this was just like a kind of a really emotionally charged set because it meant so much.
Yeah.
And I loved the end where we just have Billy and James and Jimmy playing guitar. Like that was so fun. It was a nice little way to end the set there.
Yeah, it was really cool. I got to go. If you've heard my episode on my trip there, you can go back and listen to that. But it was really amazing. Again, thanks to Kim Rosas too for helping me get those tickets. And it really was an amazing experience to be there in person, to be at Zuzu's. I haven't been to Zuzu's yet, or I hadn't been to Zuzu's yet. So it was really cool to go during then. I don't have the same kind of nostalgia for things like Tower Records or Blockbuster Video, because I'm more of a like, I like the smaller, those things killed the smaller things, but it was really cool. I mean, I still enjoyed Tower Records. I remember there was one in Dallas that I would go to a lot when I lived in Texas, and even the one in New York. But I liked the way they had everything set up. It was really cool. And then they had the bags too. That was really cool when you'd buy merch. Did anybody buy merch from that from the anniversary stuff?
Okay, I didn't get to go personally, but I'm like Cool Pumpkins friends with Justin from the Deep Dive, and he got to go, and he got me and sent me one of the Super Zero t-shirts, the beanie, the tote bag with the SP like Super Slut Super Zero logo on it, and one of the Tower Records bags, and it's around here somewhere. It's not that far from me. I just don't know exactly where it is. So I actually have that. That's like a cool piece of like nostalgia type thing. And I loved, and I can't believe I didn't mention this just a second ago, I loved how they recreated the Super Slut Superman Billy shirt to the Super Zero. That was great. That was really cool. I like how the band and like the marketing and like all the like the merch and stuff like that lately, they are doing these recreations of these older things because like they are nostalgia porny, but I love it. Like we're at a point where we get to be nostalgic and we can have this kind of cheesy nostalgia with t-shirts and stuff like that. So I loved that. And I do have several things from Madame Zuzu's from the show, not ordered, that shout out to Justin from Deep Dive. He's a good Pumpkins friend.
And you'll hear Justin too on our Seer episode. He's helping me. He co-hosted with me for the breakdown, which will be coming out at the end of the month. Like I said, I got a couple of merch items there. Racked up the credit card bill again. The one thing I was disappointed about was they released the Mayonnaise vinyl while we were there at the show, and I couldn't get on my phone to order it because I was watching the show, so I missed out on it. But luckily, somebody came through when they reprinted it and had it at Zuzu. Somebody came through for me, Gio at SP Freaks. Thank you so much. He picked up a copy for me, so I really appreciate it. And I got to meet Gio, so that was really nice too. For the first time, really cool and nice guy. Very unassuming, you wouldn't think, is all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "Oh, wait, you're SP Freaks. All right, cool."
Isn't it cool to have cool Pumpkins friends? You know, like it really is. It's like it's a community.
I mean, the thing I
It's a
love about
family.
doing this podcast is meeting a lot of the listeners and other pumpkin heads. You know, we've done meet and greets kind of at the LA shows, the California shows, and it's just really cool to meet some of y'all in person. And then when I went to Chicago, there were a few people who were like, "Wait a minute, I recognize your voice. Are you Frank from the Pumpkast?" Like, "Yep, that's me." Meeting everybody is just so, it's part of the reasons why I keep doing this, is because I really enjoy the fan community, the positive fan community. We'll leave the other stuff to
Yeah.
the side. I don't give a shit about that. But let's read some comments here. Liquid Sun said SD30 set list was amazing. Spaced Persnickety deep dives. Yeah, Persnickety at the end with the three of them was just really incredible. I didn't think I'd ever hear that live, and to hear it acoustic like that, oh, just was like it. There were a couple of times I got misty eyed, just feeling all the feels. And I really had to remind myself, like, be present, be in the moment, be there, because I won't have this chance again. And I, did a really quick 24-hour turnaround to get there. So I tried to take it all in as much as I could. Liquid Sun also said, wanted the Mayo vinyl for the collection and bought it as quick as I could when it went live. Seemed like it was autographed only. Then a few minutes later, non-auto came up. Face palm on the cost there. Yeah, because it was the autographed one was going for like what, 200, something like that. Liquid Sun, you could correct me on that. And then the standard one was like $30. I think it was something like that, or $60. It was a lot less. Matthew Lockwood says, I was absolutely shocked when they started playing Spaced. And Gio owns a super rare Zeitgeist belt buckle. Wow. Okay. And then Liquid Sun says $225 for the autographed, $30 for the standard. So yeah, those prices really vary with the autograph stuff. And that brings us well, any other thoughts on the Siamese Dream? I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you. I was wondering, because Gish and Melancholy had these big kind of to-dos when those anniversaries came along, and Siamese Dream kind of felt like it was almost going to be forgotten. So I wasn't even sure they were going to do anything. And I remember people in the camp being like, don't worry, there'll be something. There'll be something. We don't know what, but there'll be something. And we got this. And I'm glad that there was some kind of acknowledgement and celebration for it, because if it would have just kind of been, Billy has his issues with fans' interpretation of Siamese Dream, or how they hold it in their esteem. And I get it. But it was nice that we got a proper celebration for it. But kind of going into the pricing of things, one of the topics that our Patreon member Tom Davidson brought up was merch prices, quality, selection, scarcity. What are our thoughts on the merch that we saw this year, especially through Zuzu's?
They're breaking me.
Yeah,
But like seriously, like because like I want one of everything usually, and like I love repping my favorite band ever in my daily attire. Like I have so many dozens and dozens of pumpkin shirts, and I can't keep
yeah,
up with them anymore, honestly. I actually thought one thing that I thought was really cool. I got a set of Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, like official Smashing Pumpkins jewelry from Hot Topic. Like they
yeah,
had like the rings, and there was like a couple necklaces, and I was wearing the Melancholy necklace until I got my pick pendant like every day, and that was like a cool way. Like I mean, I like have a professional job, 9 to 5 job, but I could wear my little Melancholy, pendant and it not be inappropriate. Like that was
right.
more of like repping the Pumpkins in my day to day at work, in my 9 to 5. And I thought that was cool. I like that, I mean, Pumpkins merch is more accessible than ever anymore. Literally
Yeah,
this past year, I have gotten a Smashing Pumpkins t-shirt from Zara from the Gap and from Forever 21. Okay.
Yeah.
Like if you would have told like 13-year-old me that I would get a Smashing Pumpkins t-shirt from the Gap, I would have told you to shut your fucking mouth. You
Right.
know what I mean? And like, no way. Because I was like, but I like how accessible it is. You know, you can get pumpkin stuff from Target. And I think, you know, the site store and a lot of the Zuzu's release stuff, it is really pricey. Some of it I think is worth it. Some of it I think is like a little too high. But that being said, there is Pumpkins officially licensed Pumpkins merch available at every price point, really. Like, I mean, you get $10 Pumpkins t-shirts that are official, you know, and it just depends on where you're going and where you're looking and how much you want to spend. And I personally, I want one of each of all of them. Unfortunately, you know, I don't quite get one of everything, but the things I can, I do. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, my wardrobe is laughably too much pumpkin stuff. I mean, literally too much. I mean, I just got a hoodie from Hot Topic, a melancholy hoodie from Hot Topic. So it's like a second one from Hot Topic. That's the thing. Hot Topic always has really great sales too. So
they do.
You can buy them for
two
cheap.
for one. Yeah, two for one and stuff like that. Yeah, t-shirt sales and things. Absolutely. I have a melancholy hoodie from Hot Topic that I got that's like, it's like black with gold melancholy print and stuff on it.
Got that one too.
Okay, yeah. And I just think it's cool that we can get it like that. And I will say, the Huff releases are so amazing. Those are kind of really high, cool. But they are really pretty good quality, better quality than the site store stuff. And the site store shipping is not awesome.
It's gotten better. I'll say that because there was a while there where it was pretty terrible and the price for shipping was really high.
Yeah.
And then even when they went with Manhead, there were some issues there, but then at least they were good about, like, I had a couple of issues, but they were good about solving them. And the new store, it's better. But occasionally I will have an issue. And with Zuzu's, they were really good with, like, I've heard other stories, but for me, when they sent the wrong size of something from Zuzu's, I was able to contact them and they were able to correct it and you know, help me out in a timely manner. So yeah, it's gotten better, but there was a time when it was really, like, fans were really pissed off about the shipping and stuff.
It was really bad for a while. But back to what I was saying about the Huff stuff, like, it's so cool. You know what I mean? It is so cool.
I got the pillow.
This last release, I had a few things picked out that I wanted, and I wasn't able to go on right at the drop. It was like 4 or 5 hours after the release, and like everything I wanted in my size was sold out.
Yeah, it sold out
everything
immediately.
I wanted in my size. Yeah.
It's really insane. They have a store here in LA too that I keep meaning to check out. So that way, when they do those drops, I can just go in person and hopefully, you know, get it there. Dean, any thoughts on the merch this year?
I'm not as big of a merch person. But I will say I love posters, and I've gotten a couple great posters. They had from the tour last year with Jane's Addiction. I went to the opening night in Dallas, and the poster for that show was awesome. Got that one, and then the World is a Vampire Shoreline poster was great too. So
a lot of great designs.
I really liked all of the different city like posters for the World is a Vampire tour. There were so many really good ones, really good ones.
I really appreciate that they did, like, and I think they did a different poster for every city, I think, for both tours.
They
which
did.
You know, that's not easy. You know, I mean, you've got it's a lot of design that you've got to commission, and you know, it's normal, you know, for a band to just have a poster for the tour, which is also really cool. But the fact that they did different posters for every city, it makes you feel like, you know, I was at this one. This one is special. It's where I was, which is really cool. So I'm happy with the few that I got from the last year or so. But yeah, the t-shirt stuff kind of passes me by. I got a shirt from the shows I went to, but there's so much online, and I'm just like, I'm not even gonna try.
You're smart. You're saving the money. We're all broke. Yeah, because I have the tinfoil, the rainbow tinfoil of the LA show one that I have hanging up, and it's just gorgeous when the light hits it. It just looks so amazing. And I got one from the New York show as well, the standard one, because I really like that design. Liquid Sun says, I've spent a lot on shirts the last few years, and same hoodie as yours, Frank, and I've now lost a lot of weight. They're all too big now. So sad. Yeah, but you know what? They're cozy. It's wintertime. That's the big hoodies during wintertime are always my favorites. By a size up. Yeah. So, sorry. Go ahead,
I
Asherella.
was just gonna say, that being said, so we get a lot of t-shirts. There is a lot more accessible, like women's sizes accessible, which that was an
Yeah.
issue for being a kid of the 90s. Like
Right. Yeah.
I would
Everything
be
is big.
lucky
Big.
to get a men's large or extra large and like a liquid blue, like
Yeah.
t-shirt or something. And so I grew up like sewing up my Pumpkins t-shirts and cutting them up to like make them girly. And I do appreciate that we have so much more of a variety of like women's cut.
Yeah.
But the World's Vampire Tour, they only had like one women's cut t-shirt on the tour, which I thought was like, not, I was hoping for a couple more, but we are in such a better place now than we've ever been as far as like chick merch.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I mean, even speaking of Hot Topic, there are a couple of sweaters that are there that are women's cut that I'm like, oh, I want that for me, but I'll just buy a bigger
Like
size and
cropped.
put it on. So
Yeah.
nothing stopping me. Why not? So yeah, that's our. Did anybody get the candles and the cassette?
It was like so
That's
high.
very pricey. That was a
If
very
it wasn't
pricey.
Christmas, I would have bought it, but it's like gift buying time of year. So
Yeah. Cool. So let's move on to our next topic, which something that kind of ties into that. The archival releases, vinyl and now CD. Any thoughts on the archive releases that we got this year? I know we got Candide, which was one. God, please remind me in the comments. I should have written this down, which archive releases we got this year. But have any of you bought any of the archive releases? I have a couple on vinyl.
yeah, I got gifted a couple of vinyls. I think it's cool, but it's one of those things that's just making me more broke because I want like
Yeah.
one of each. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the variations of like the silver and the
Yeah,
gold and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But I mean, the more pumpkins, the better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, I see it, I want it, I have to have it. I might have these tracks on 3 different other formats or whatever, but I still want to have it.
Next topic is the tour that's coming up next year with Green Day, Rancid, and the Linda Lindas. Our thoughts on that. Dean, kick us off.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I bought tickets for when they're coming to San Francisco. I was like really surprised to hear about them opening for Green Day.
Yeah.
And this is actually how I found out about Jeff leaving the band because I was like, what are people saying about this on Reddit? And then all of a sudden it's like Jeff is leaving the Smashing Pumpkins. I was like, what?
Oh no, yeah.
But yeah, I was like really surprised by that because when I think about Green Day and Pumpkins, they're pretty different, in terms of like the emotion and the approach and kind of their attitude. But thinking more about it, like they're from the same era. I think their first albums were released the same year and more or less. And they've been, if you like, I like both of those bands and I listened to both of those bands on K-Rock in LA growing up at the same time. And I think a lot of us probably listened to those bands together around the same time. So even though stylistically they're pretty different, I'm really stoked. But yeah, they do stick out. The Pumpkins stick out compared to like everybody else on the bill, like Rancid and Green Day.
Linda Lindas,
Yeah, and like in the European tour, the Hives are taking the Pumpkin spot, and I like just saw the Hives here like a couple weeks ago. Love the Hives.
Oh yeah.
But it's going to be great. I think it's rare that a show like that, like I want to see everyone, like, and I really want to see everyone. So I'm stoked about it. I'm very curious how Billy feels about opening for Green Day. I was like, who sold more records? Turns out Green Day sold more records.
It's not
I
even
looked
a
that up too,
competition.
yeah.
It's not even a competition.
75 million Green Day, and that surprised me.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I guess so. But yes, I
think he's fine with it. He's praised Billy Joe in the past too. I think there's friendliness there. I think there's a respect there that they both lasted this long.
Yes,
especially Green Day to have the 3 core members for the whole time, like it just since they broke, like it's really amazing. Totally. And so I think there's respect there, and I think he doesn't mind because he knows, like, you just go to Spotify, you look at the Pumpkins top song, how much it's been streamed, and you look at Green Day's top song, it's just nowhere close. That's just the way it is. And I think it's a weird pairing, but it's a show I want to see. I think I might try to go home to Dallas, Texas to try to see that show with some of my family members, because I think that'll be a fun show to take them to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I've never seen Rancid live. I haven't seen the Linda Lindas yet. Liquid Sun says here, seems like Green Day fan base thinks SP are washed up sad sacks and Green Day is throwing them a bone. Not a fair assessment or assumption from folks who haven't kept up, especially in recent years. That's going to happen, like from the outside. Like I said before, with people sending me the memes and stuff, it's like there's going to be a perception, but what matters is what's happening for us, the fans, how Billy is presenting that music to us. And I think they are more commercial than they've ever been since, the 90s personally. So it's going to be rough. I think sometimes there probably will be some Green Day fans who don't like it, but tough shit. I think it's going to be a successful tour. Asherella, what are your thoughts?
I was whenever this was announced and I'm like, Pumpkin's opening for Green Day. What the hell? Like, I was just like utterly confused by this. And then I started looking it up, and sure enough, Green Day has sold like 75 million, records worldwide, and Pumpkins are like 30 million. It is, I don't think it's any weirder of a pairing than like Pumpkins and Weezer, which I love Weezer. They're super nostalgic for me too. But I think that I'm going to go to the Nashville show, and I'm doing VIP for the Nashville show.
Nice.
And I'm going to try to go to the Atlanta show too, maybe if I can swing it. But I'm so excited about that tour. I think it'll be good. I do think what Liquid Sun was saying, I think there are a lot of people that, haven't been paying attention and in the loop, I agree. They just don't know. Like Billy Corgan will always be the bald rat in a cage guy to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like casual fans are just, here, maybe not even fans, but like, radio listened to Pumpkins back in the day. Like that's all they'll ever be. And they just don't get it and they don't know. And we don't care. You know what I mean? Like whatever.
Yeah. And I get
it
because
for them. It's not for them.
Right. Yeah. It's like you can move on. I mean, but the same thing for me and Springsteen, I always had this thought of like Born in the USA, rah, rah, American, even though that's not what the song is about, but that's the way it was presented to us in the 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I actually dove into like when I started hearing Nebraska and all these other Springsteen albums, I was like, oh wait, there's something more to Springsteen. I finally get it. And I think that's a case for a lot of people where they're like, oh, I know zero Billy Corgan, the zero bald head rat in a cage. But if they actually dove in, they'd be like, oh, there's something here. There's more dynamic stuff to check out. But yeah, Liquid Sun even says SP is going to surprise the Green Day fans and impress them. And also says that they're going to be at the Nashville VIP. So you guys can meet up there.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be touring the world, and I think that they're going to be hitting up a lot of places, the UK finally as well. And I wonder if they'll be doing, other than the Green Day US tour, once that's done, if they're going to be doing any other like little shows here and there. I can't imagine that they won't, right? Probably a Chicago show. I'm really hoping for an LA show. I was hoping the last couple of times they would do another small like LA club show. But hasn't happened yet. But if it happens, I want to be there. Yeah. So let's see what else we have here. Billy and Chloe's marriage. Thoughts?
I'm happy. I'm just happy that he's happy.
Yeah.
It's great. I think especially when you look back at earlier times, it seemed like he had kind of given up on finding certain kinds of happiness in life. And I'm glad that he has found what he's looking for. They seem, obviously you never know about the inside of someone's relationship, but he seems happy, and I'm happy for him that he didn't have to like totally give up on something that seemed really important to him in life, finding a life partner and having kids. Like if that was really important to him, I'm glad that he was able to find the right person to share that with.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Asherella, what are your thoughts on the marriage?
I mean, other than me being just a little bit jealous, I'm fine with it's good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that Billy is like happy right now, because I think he genuinely is. Think about like Tear Song for a Son. Like that was him. That was the song he was writing about himself, for himself.
Heavy.
And I think that, that really represented his mindset in that time. But now here we are. And like, he loves his kids so much. Obviously, he's a very involved parent. Like they're always around. He's always including them in things. And, I think we don't always see that with, celebrities and musicians and things like that with their kids. I don't feel like his kids are being raised by nannies or anything like that. Him and Chloe seem very involved, like with the kids. They do a lot of family oriented things at Zuzu's. That you really involve the community. In general, I know he's really working to try to make, Highland Park and, Chicago, like what he can do to make it a better place. He's trying, and I think that's great. Like I said, other than, this is maybe a little bit jealous there, I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I think it was the wedding looked beautiful. I think it's kind of insane that he did the Siamese Dream thing the day after that, which was like, wow. But I'm glad it happened. I'm glad both of those got to happen in that weekend. What a whirlwind weekend for them. So congrats to Billy and Chloe. So finally, we're going to leave off on this. Of course, we'll open it up if there's anything we missed, of course. But what are we hoping for or looking forward to in 2024 with the Pumpkins? Asherella, start us off.
Well, obviously, super excited about the tour next summer. And I hope we get, if we don't get a full album next year, I hope we get some new music, some new like rock music. I think that because the things that Billy has done this past year involving Zuzu's in these live and more intimate events, I think he's going to continue to do things like that. I hope he does, because it is, reigniting the enthusiasm for the Smashing Pumpkins. Like I said, there is definitely this Pumpkins like revival and renaissance happening. We've been here the whole time, but there are people that are getting brought back into the fold because of everything that's been going on the past couple of years. And y'all were talking earlier about, I've been fortunate enough to see the Smashing Pumpkins at some really smaller venues. Like I got to see, like you were talking about the Fillmore residency. I got to go to the Orange Bill for a couple of nights. And, that's a tiny, that's my home venue. That's like where I go to see music more than any place else. And it was just meant to be when that was announced. I was like, oh my God. But it's different when you get to see like, your band and people like this, or just a band of the Smashing Pumpkins caliber in a smaller setting like that, in a more intimate setting where you can make eye contact with the guitarist and make eye contact with Billy Corgan. And, it's different. It makes things like hit a little different. And been to some great stadium shows. Absolutely. This, World is Vampire tour, pretty big venues. It was maybe my favorite, but I really hope that he keeps doing smaller things, even if it is just at Zuzu's. I think that is going to just, it's going to further this, rekindled interest that the casual fans have in the Pumpkins. And, just more Pumpkins, more Billy, more music. That's all I can ask for. Let's keep going the way we are, and I'll be a happy Asherella.
Let us know in the comments what you're looking forward to, or if there's any topic that we might have missed that you wanted to hear us talk about. Dean, what are your thoughts on what you are hoping for in 2024 from the Pumpkins camp?
I'm really hoping that we get the Machina remaster next year. I know I'm not the only one.
Everybody is, yeah.
I think it's number one on everybody's list, and it's so frustrating to hear. There's stuff I can't share, but like it's just it's so much out of the band's hands at this point, and it's really frustrating given the label and stuff, how they're treating this and how we're so close. We're closer than ever, but it's still all the technical shit with the label, and hopefully that'll get resolved and we can finally get that bad boy in our hands in 2024.
Yes, definitely. And I think in the comments people are mentioning some other issues that would be great, like Swan and Future Embrace. I would love that too.
Chicago Kid finally.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I'll mention is like, Billy made this comment, which I know you talked about, Frank, when you did the episode, that like at the Siamese Dream 30th anniversary show about like doing a Siamese Dream era tour, or like Siamese Dream era shows where they're like, we can still be that band. I mean, yeah, as much as I try not like, to be like, oh, the Smashing Pumpkins should just do Siamese Dream again forever. That
It'd
would
just
be
be a cool
amazing.
one-off.
It would
Yeah.
be amazing. It would be so cool.
Like,
So
why not? If he's into it, if he's the one
yeah,
proposing it, then that's all I care about. As long as
yes,
it's not somebody else being like, you have to do this or else we're going to take away your home or something like that.
yeah,
It's like it's his choice. It's his
yes,
choice.
Mhm.
The fact that it is his choice, and he's like, I know exactly what it'll be. The era,
yes,
a Siamese Dream show that would have been of the era, which means including Gish songs,
yeah,
covers,
Yeah.
Pisces Iscariot tracks.
yes,
I mean, like, what the hell? And people don't believe that it would sell. It would be a profitable tour, which
yeah.
drives me insane, especially for us, because
Yeah.
like we know how well it would do.
Oh yeah, I would
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that. I would love that.
A topic that Liquid Sun brought up is Billy and Chloe hosting Chicago New Year's Eve. That one I think was even more where people were surprised about the Disney thing. This one actually caught me by surprise that it's an actual big televised New Year's event that's happening on NBC in Chicago, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like the
which
local Chicago station New Year's Eve thing. Yeah.
yeah, so that one actually did surprise me and felt a little like, whoa, that's kind of out of nowhere. Yeah, I don't know what to expect from that. I mean, I'm eager to see what that looks like. Um, yeah, I don't know. What are your
I
thoughts?
think it'll be good. Billy is very camera ready. He's very good, chatting, interviewing. I think he's going to do a good job. And, whenever Billy like he is able to just draw people in, talk to a crowd. He's very charming and witty when he's like in that moment. And I think a lot of people think Billy Corgan is a little gruff, little like, but he's not. He's not at all.
Yeah,
Like, he does really like warm and really engaging interviews a lot of time, and so I think that will translate over to them hosting this event. I'm on the East Coast, but I'll celebrate New Year's an hour behind with Billy and Chloe, most likely.
yeah. Liquid Sun says hopefully some live performances within. That's what I'm hoping for as well. Some friends and whatnot. Well, we are going to have some live performances because we had Sierra and Katie promoting that they'll be there as well. Dean, any thoughts on that?
I think one of the cool things about the 33 podcast that ties into this is just, I know this is kind of, maybe this sounds dumb, but I just never realized how many, friends Billy has, of amazing musicians and creative people, and how
Yeah.
important those folks are, and how much mutual respect they have for each other. And that really comes out, when he has musical guests on the 33 podcast, of just like the mutual love and respect they have for each other. And so I think it'll be really cool to see who comes to perform with him. I'm sure there'll be some surprises of people that maybe we hadn't known they were friends or whatever. I'm sure it'll be really cool. Whoever he plays with, I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah. Liquid Sun says, I just need to be on your panel next time. That is correct, Liquid Sun. You're invited, officially invited for our next one, so you
It's
can take
not.
part.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I want to
Yeah, go
tell
ahead.
Liquid Sun it's not allowing me to post this in the chat, but hit me up on IG for next summer Nashville. Like I don't know Liquid Sun right now, at least I don't think I do. So let's be friends since we're both going to Nashville.
Hit up. We'll give those credits at the end to where they can find you. And Matthew Lockwood says, since the Machina reissue probably won't include the 2000 Metro show, ooh, we still need that one so bad. Hopefully we will get a DVD/Blu-ray of the June 30th 2000 Budokan show. Glass and the Ghost Children performance is amazing. Yeah, that is a really great show. Yeah, that Metro show, I mean, it's there, it's ready to go. That's another thing that hopefully we'll be surprised by at some point. And then we had talked to the guy who did the documentary, Peter, who did the documentary for the Arising tour. That probably will never see the light of day. It got close, but not going to happen, unfortunately. So I don't know if we helped or hurt that. So hopefully we didn't hurt that chance. Anyway, so I just want to thank my guest, Asherella and Dean, for joining me today. This is our first live stream. If you enjoyed it, please let us know. Give us feedback. Do you want more of these? What kind do you want? Please share your thoughts with us. You can do that on Instagram at Instagram at Smashing Pumpkast, KST, And you can email us at thesmashingpumpcast@gmail.com. You can give us feedback there. And also you can find us on X, Twitter at Pumpkins Podcast, and on Blue Sky at Smashing Pumpcast. Asherella, where can people find you online?
Okay, YouTube original Asherella, and also Instagram original Asherella. Just search original Asherella on either of those. I'll come up. I'm pretty much the first thing that comes up in that. I also am on X and Threads. I'm way more active on Instagram, but I am on X and Threads, and my links to those are on my YouTube channel. So you can find all my links to everything through original Asherella on YouTube.
Great. Dean?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at so totally floored, one word. And I just want to say thank you so much, Frank, for having us and for everything you do for the Pumpkast. Like, the Pumpkast is one of my favorite companions throughout the days and the weeks. So thank you so much. I know it's a lot of work, and I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful. So
absolutely, me too. I think all the fans, we love it. We love the listening to hardcore Pumpkins talk, like hardcore fan Pumpkins talk. It makes my day better, you know. And thanks for inviting me. It's been such a great time. I'll come back anytime.
Thank you. Pat and I appreciate all of you who listen and support the podcast. Coming up on the Smashing Pumpcast, we're going to have our episode on Seer. This will also be available to listen to at the end of the year. And also, we have a couple of special things. We have a Patreon episode talking to a cover band, Siamese Dream, that will be coming out soon as well. And also a supercut of our demo episodes, a 4-hour long episode that combines all our coverage of the pre-Gish material. So you have that to look forward to. And again, Seer, and then we'll see about autumn. We're trying to figure out, we're going to do probably at the beginning of the year, our top 20 songs of the Reformation era. So that way people can have to check out, and something you can give to casual fans to be like, check this stuff out. You might like it. So thank you to everybody who watched us for this live stream, and all those who listen to the podcast. And until next time, we bid you all a fond farewell and good night. Take care, everyone.